Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Friday, March 21st, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, shall I? Folks, do you know that today is National Fragrance Day? Which gives my co-host the opportunity to recite the cheesiest cologne slogan of all time, namely, all my men wear English leather, or they wear nothing at all. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. Happy National Fragrance Day to you, Sheila.
What is that? English leather? What year is that from?
I knew, just call me the Amazing Kreskin, folks. I knew there was going to be an ageism joke here. It goes back to the early 70s. So before we got on the air, I sent the 30-second clip to Olivia. And by the way, as you watch it, folks, ask yourselves, could you run an ad like this today? I don't think you could. Check it out.
I think women are becoming a little more frightening to men these days. Maybe because we're freer to do much more. But some men aren't intimidated at all. They enjoy our freedom. Those are the men I like. And you know, those are the men who wear English leather cologne. English leather fits the way they live. It's so clean and natural, and I love it. So all my men wear English leather, or they wear nothing at all.
Look for English leather in a wide selection of gift sets.
Sheila, do you play billiards?
I do now. I like her attitude, by the way, but, you know, just land on like one man. Don't say all my men. Just say like my man.
Well, you got to remember, you know, given the time it was about women's liberation, you know.
It was a groovier time, I suppose.
Yeah. So what's good for the goose is sauce for the gander. I think if you did that ad today, you'd probably have a trans woman in the role of the pool player. That's just me, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, and all that other groovy stuff.
I feel like that's being abandoned more and more, actually. Let's get into what we're doing today because the sausage is bursting at the casing today. It is just completely full. I have no idea how we're going to get to all the things we need to talk about, especially with constant interjections from David Menzies and I. This is, of course, Rebel Roundup. It's our daily live news and opinion show where we digest the news with you. And that is, I think, the most important point. We're not doing this in a vacuum. We want to hear from you. So if you're watching us on the great free speech platform of Rumble, you can support the work that we do over there by leaving us a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're obligating ourselves to read it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best, but no promises. But our very, very best, time permitting. Same rules apply over on the recently remonetized platform of YouTube, and God only knows how long that's going to last. But if you are watching us over there, and I realize many of you prefer to watch us over there for ease, convenience, and out of habit. So you can leave us a super chat over there. And again, same rules apply over the $5 US cutoff. We're reading it on air. But if you miss the show live, you can also leave a super thanks, which is their paid comment. And every little bit helps us here at Rebel News. As you know, we'll never take a penny from the Carney Liberals to hold them to account. I hope I never have to say Prime Minister Carney after, I guess, either the end of April or the beginning of May. I think he'll be relegated to the opposition benches and then probably actually just go back to England because he didn't come back for us.
Oh, wait a minute, Sheila. You mean he's going to pull a Michael Ignatieff? He's not going to represent his constituency as a member of the opposition?
Yeah, of course. Of course, that's what I think. Was some of the most effective ads, I think, in modern political history were the Michael Ignatieff attack ads from the Conservatives, where they're like, he didn't come back for you. And then, as it turns out, he didn't. They were completely right. I wish the Just Not Ready campaign ads were a little bit more effective, because those in the end were also true about Justin Trudeau.
You're so right, Sheila. And there are some nicknames that are career killers, I think. With Paul Martin, it was Mr. Dithers as a prime minister in waiting. How can you get past that? With Michael Ignatieff, it was the visiting professor.
Yeah.
Just brilliant. But in any event, speaking of prime ministers, our first item, it's in your postal code, Sheila.
I love this. Well, it's not in my postal code, but it is in my area code, I suppose. Premier Daniel Smith met with Mark Carney. Now, the timing is excellent here, because the day before, she put all oil and gas facilities under the Critical Infrastructure Defense Act, which meant that if federal inspectors came in looking for emissions data, because we have absolutely no intent to comply with the emissions cap. In fact, Daniel Smith said, actually, not only are we not going to comply with your emissions cap, which is a production cap, but we're going to double production. And if you try to enforce the emissions cap, because we're not turning over the data, and you send federal inspectors into oil and gas facilities, we consider them critical infrastructure. So that is trespassing on critical infrastructure, which is next level in Alberta. And they'll be trespassed, charged, on and on and on. So that's what she said yesterday or 2 days ago. And if the feds really want to fight, we'll invoke the Sovereignty Act on them to make sure that they stay in their lane, because natural resources, particularly non-renewable natural resources, fall strictly within provincial purview. So Mark Carney shows up in town one day after we say we're going to criminally charge federal inspectors if they show up looking for emissions data. Mark Carney skulks into town like a weasel. By the way, missing a completely open net in his morning skate with the Oilers. I don't know if you saw that. Net zero, as the joke was on the internet. Daniel Smith, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, oh God. Oilers, do you think this flies well in Alberta? Do you think this bodes well? I mean, I get he's the prime minister, so fine, but they could have just let him come for a skate. They didn't need to do the big promotional nonsense.
Sheila, flies well in Alberta. Front page of the Toronto Sun today. Carney in his Edmonton Oilers
power play
swag on the ice. First of all, there's always significance in things, and I'm looking at the number he's wearing, 24. Really,
they didn't show him missing the open net.
Oh, isn't that selective editing?
That funny?
Well, yeah. But why 24? Shouldn't it be 25? We're in the calendar year 2025. Also, Mr. Carney is an old gumper. Why isn't he wearing goalie gear? Why not parlay that into a photo op and have a shooter dressed up in a Donald Trump mask, and he's like deflecting the shots and making stick saves and glove saves and whatnot, especially since, as you adroitly pointed out, Sheila Gunn-Reid, he can't hit an empty net. That is, I got to look at that footage again, but I just want to read the opening statement of Danielle Smith's statement, and it's this. Quote, at his request, I met with Prime Minister Mark Carney. We had a very frank discussion in which I made it clear that Albertans will no longer tolerate the way we've been treated by the federal Liberals over the past 10 years, end quote. You know what the most amazing thing of that statement is, Sheila? And this is why the more I get to know Danielle Smith, the more I get to love her. She's savvy. She's strong. I have never in my life seen a premier begin a statement of a meeting with a prime minister with the 3 words, at his request.
Yeah.
That is significant. It's not that the prime minister and I sat down for a cup of tea and had a great meeting. No. She is intimating that I didn't go to seek this guy's input. He came to me. I think that's a political win for Daniel Smith, Sheila.
Look at this, though. She thought, okay, since he's in town, let's put him on notice, because she quite literally put the feds on legal notice the day before, because we're already fighting the emissions cap in court. But even if they choose to pursue imposing the emissions cap on Alberta, she said, no, well, we'll just arrest you. That's fine. But let's read the rest of her statement. And actually, at the end of her press conference, she said, we'd like to talk, but we could do it your way too. She said she's sent a list of specific demands that the Prime Minister must address in an unprecedented national unity crisis. This includes guaranteeing Alberta full access to oil and gas corridors to the north, east, and west, repealing the No New Pipelines Act, lifting the tanker ban, eliminating the oil and gas emissions cap, which of course is a production cap, scrapping the so-called clean electricity regulations, ending the prohibition on single-use plastics, because we already won that court battle, but they still won't take them off the Schedule 1 toxins list, along with, if you can believe it, mercury, asbestos, and lead, abandoning the net zero car mandate, returning oversight of the industrial carbon tax to the provinces, halting the federal censorship of energy companies, because they are censoring energy companies telling the good news stories of the oil and gas sector through a clause that is under the purview of the Competition Bureau. It's under truth in advertising or whatever. So yeah, she put him on notice, and then his response he skulked into town. She dropped the hammer on him the day before, which was pretty funny. And he said, I met with Premier Smith in my hometown of Edmonton today. I had no idea that this was what he described as his hometown until he started campaigning. He said, Canada is fighting for our workers and our businesses. His government is focused on working with provinces and territories. He didn't actually mention any of the things that she talked about, except for new energy corridors and new trade routes with reliable partners and one Canadian economy. So he touched on the new energy corridors, but she was very specific about what they needed to be and which direction they were going, not one that could allow specific provinces to veto these energy corridors, like what Carney said that he would give to Quebec specifically.
So, Sheila, do we have any clarity where Mr. Carney stands on this? Because he's wearing the Captain Canuck costume and wrapping himself in the maple leaf, and he's saying things that, developing other markets. Oh, and by the way, can we eliminate the interprovincial trade barriers, which they've been talking about, since Confederation? But here's the deal. As you know, his predecessor, Blackface, turned down the likes of Japan, Germany,
twice,
Greece, in terms of $1 trillion worth of liquefied natural gas. I understand Japan just signed such a contract with the US for that liquefied natural gas. Do we have any clarity if it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss, when it comes to Mark Carney? Does he also turn down European nations that are begging for our energy, especially since he says we're the most European nation that's not actually part of Europe? Do you know what the answer is there, Sheila?
Well, did he come home from Europe just now where he burned 250,000 liters of fuel? Did he come home with a trade deal? Like, he went there to apparently shore up our relationship with the Europeans, with whom we do like a statistical rounding error of trade with. Did he come home with a trade deal? He could have went over there and said, hey, we're trying to sell you a bunch of liquefied natural gas. Would you take it? He came home with nothing. He went over there to do a hello tour after Justin Trudeau just did a big goodbye tour, and came home with nothing, not even any real photo ops. He met with the king, which I think he should. He's the Canadian Prime Minister. But it's not the best look to go there and just do a hey, it's me, Mark, I'm back, and I'm better than ever, and actually have nothing to show for it when we have real burning trade issues with the Americans and China, and he decided to just go on the like popularity tour of Europe.
Olivia, can we show that picture again of Mark Carney meeting with the king? Because I have a question for you, Sheila. Let's see. There you go. Is that the king's place, or is it Mark Carney's luxury hotel?
How would you know?
suite?
How would you ever know? How would you ever know? Given his expense scandal last time he was on the public taxpayer dime in the UK, $300,000 in expenses in just, sorry, 300,000 pounds worth of expenses in just 2 years. And he already had a taxpayer funded residence as the head of the Bank of England. His wife was complaining about how they had to live so small when they were there. The gall of these people. Now, speaking of gall, Poilievre actually slammed Carney for his gall of suddenly pretending to change his radical net zero, keep it in the ground ideology, like saying like how galling that you would demand a meeting with the Alberta premier in the place you plan to destroy. I think, all next week, and we'll see how it goes depending on the popularity of this segment. I plan to do a dramatic reading from Mark Carney's book Values, his manifesto, his Green Manifesto, every day. Just a quick snippet. So people can, like, he's not hiding his radical extremism. He published an enormously thick book about it. And I'm reading it so you don't have to. So anyways, let's go to Poilievre's clip, please.
Mark Carney was in Edmonton yesterday to meet with Danielle Smith. Shortly after the meeting, Smith put out a list of demands for the next prime minister, including, among other things, ending the prohibition on single-use plastics. She said if these demands were not met within 6 months of the new mandate, there would be a national unity crisis. Are you willing to commit right now to meeting the demands that Premier Smith has enumerated?
I think Premier Smith's demands are very reasonable. You'll have to see the rest of our platform roll out in due course, but she was making clear that Mark Carney's using weasel words. He's pretending that he suddenly, 30 days before an election, changed his entire radical net zero, keep it in the ground ideology. Mr. Carney, I can't even believe he would have the audacity to show up in Edmonton. He opposed the Northern Gateway pipeline in a committee testimony while his company was buying pipelines in the Middle East. That pipeline would have created jobs for Edmontonians. It would have been a boom for Northern Alberta. And all of the money that would have rushed into Edmonton would have created opportunities. And he opposed it. It's on the record. He supports carbon taxes in Canada while he invests in American coal. Yesterday, his environment minister confirmed that the energy cap will stay in place if the Liberals are in office. So, despite the fact that they're trying to put on this mask last minute before the election, make no mistake, a fourth Liberal term will be exactly like the previous three. It has been the lost Liberal decade. And this is the question Canadians are going to have to answer. Do we want a fourth term of Liberals who block resources, tax our people, drive up our costs, unleash crime in our community, and make us weak and defenseless facing the Americans? Or do we want to put Canada first for a change by axing taxes, unleashing our resources, building homes, locking up criminals, rebuilding our military, standing up to the Americans, and putting Canada first?
I think that's a winning campaign strategy, because when Poilievre, Sheila, says putting Canada first, he's not necessarily saying putting our nation ahead of the Trump administration. He's saying let's put our nation ahead and the well-being of our nation ahead of the Justin Trudeau, now Mark Carney Liberals, that has resulted, as Mr. Poilievre said, a lost Liberal decade of opportunity. All the energy we could have benefited from stymied. Crime's up, homelessness is up, illegal immigration is up. It goes on and on. So I think the nuance there with Canada First is putting Canada ahead of the Liberal Party of Canada.
Yeah. And first in all of your policy decisions, not about whether or not China is going to be mad at us, not about whether or not the environmentalists are going to be mad at us, but putting Canadians and Canadian jobs first. And he is right. The Northern Gateway Pipeline, opposed by Mark Carney, he said there was no business case for it, would have taken oil and gas from refineries and upgraders here, just actually up the road from where I live, outside of beautiful Bruderheim, Alberta, to northern British Columbia, and then offshore, thus ensuring full market access of Canadian oil and gas and increasing the value per barrel. Mark Carney said there was no financial case to getting Canadian oil and gas into international markets and increasing the cost per barrel. He just said there wasn't. Besides all the jobs it would have created, and all the upgraders that actually died because of the cancellation of that pipeline. I mean, it's just outrageous. But what mattered most for him was if Canadian oil is on the market, then it sort of makes all those Brookfield investments in oil and gas in foreign countries not as viable and not as lucrative. And so he was protecting his market share at the expense of Canada.
Yeah, and that's the problem when he doesn't disclose his financial assets. If he is going to be
Exactly.
the prime minister after the next election, how do we know he's not going to get involved in legislation that is going to benefit those financial assets? Amazing. But you know what the most amazing thing that you just said in that statement, Sheila, when you use the phrase up the road from where I live, there is something up the road. I thought you were at the end of the road. I thought you were at the tree line.
No, that is true. I live exactly where the grassland crashes into the boreal forest. Very beautiful. Just to the north of me is the boreal forest, and just to the north of me is what's known as Upgrader Alley. And it's the oil and gas facilities there where we have beautiful land and clean air, and we grow all the nation's food. But yeah, there would have been even more upgraders, even more jobs, even more oil and gas production to feed that pipeline. And Mark Carney said, there's just no case for it. Like, what a lunatic. No case for him. And also, we know that Mark Carney's been advising the Liberals on economic policy and environmental policy for at least the last 5 years. And so he's already been enriching himself and growing his assets and advising on policies that would make him infinitely wealthier.
Well, Sheila, I, for one, look forward to your recitals of various Mark Carney passages from his book. And you know what? I have to do my due diligence. I got to read that book. I got to see how bad the rot really is. But here's my question for you, Sheila. Is that book available at a public library? It's not that I'm a cheapskate, just the idea of Mark Carney getting a royalty from me. That's too egregious for me to live with.
I spent 10 days looking for it at local Goodwills. Just because, and particularly at a Goodwill, because I like their support of people who are developmentally disordered and people who are living with disabilities. I did go looking for the book. I, like you, did not want to give millionaire, possibly billionaire Mark Carney any of my money. I really didn't. But I did it for all of you so that you don't give him your money, because I'll do the reading for you.
Yeah, you know, I don't like to reward chicanery. It was like more than 10 years ago, Sheila, there was this dreadful piece of garbage movie that came out about Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, depicting Carla as a victim, of course.
Oh, she's the reason they started killing.
Exactly.
Nobody was dead till Carla showed up on the scene.
But because I was writing about it, I had to see it. So I went to the theater and I go, but I can't give this, film a royalty. So what I did, I think I'm being honest, you tell me, I bought a ticket for another movie and then snuck into, I didn't watch the other movie. I bought, so they get the money, the other movie, whatever it was, can't remember. And then I got to see the Carla Homolka movie. Did I do the right thing, or was that some form of theft, Sheila?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. You didn't steal from the movie theater, so that's
Correct.
okay. We've got one more. This is posted on X. So Mark Carney did, where was this? Was it in Edmonton? I guess he did. This was in Edmonton. And I can't even imagine, because my son is a pipe fitter. So I can only imagine what horrible trouble he would have raised on a job site if Mark Carney showed up to like do a campaign, a pre-campaign photo op. My son and his friends on the job site. These guys were well behaved, but as it turns out, they didn't want to be there. So a blue collar worker from yesterday's Mark Carney press conference, so that would have been on the 20th, comes forward. He says he told organizers that he refused to shake Mark Carney's hand and did not want to be there. And the guy says, I'm the guy in the black hard hat. I didn't want to be there. I vowed not to shake his hand. I told the organizers that I wouldn't. And that guy's name
Bravo.
is John B. Good for you, John.
Yeah.
I'm actually like, you could look at how those guys are looking at Mark Carney too, by the way. They're just like, they don't want to be there. They're not enthusiastic. I don't know.
I'll tell you, when Lincoln Jay and I went to the Stelco plant in Hamilton, the steel workers there, the lunch bucket brigade, and I say that with endearment, Sheila, were all over Mr. Poilievre. And it was genuine, which is another reason I just don't believe these push polls they're trying to shove down our throats. But, you know, it's always amazing, especially when you see the Mark Carneys and the Justin Trudeaus of the world taking off their jacket, rolling up their sleeves, ditching the tie. I'm one of you. I'm like a common schlub working out in the field or in the steel mill. And look how that backfired. You know, it reminds me in the late 80s, Sheila, it was the most, unintentionally funny photo op I ever saw. It was on the front page of the Toronto Sun. It was then Ontario Liberal Premier David Peterson with Democrat wannabe presidential hopeful Dukakis, and they were in a subway car. And of course, they cleared out the subway car. And it's kind of like Dukakis is looking at these bars above the seats, and it's like, what are these strange bars? And well, you see, Mr. Dukakis, usually the subway car is jam-packed like a sardine tin, and the people standing up have to hold the bar so they don't fall down. Oh, I see. Those two dudes haven't been in a subway train for decades, so please spare us that they were getting to, I don't know, Queen's Park by taking the subway. I can't stand the phoniness. And you saw the other day, Justin Trudeau on a Monday shopping at Canadian Tire, wearing denim and a ball cap. Did you see that social media posting, Sheila?
Oh, I sure did. And he was buying stuff for a bachelor pad. I'm just happy to find out that he didn't take the coffee machine and the utensils out of Rideau Cottage. I'm actually over the weekend. I have a little bit of time as I wait for somebody to play sports. I'm going to take that photo and I'm going to go investigate at my local Canadian Tire to see just how many of those items he was getting for his obviously new bachelor pad because he's divorced, right? And I'm sure his wife took everything that they mutually had. I'm going to go find out how many of those things are actually made in Canada.
Oh, more than 90% would not be. I'll make that bet right now.
Exactly.
But Sheila, like you, like so many members of our audience, we've shopped at Canadian Tires.
For sure.
Oh, where are the other customers? Where are the staffers? That Canadian Tire, wherever it is, it makes the hotel overlook from The Shining look like Grand Central Station at rush hour. And out of range of that selfie stick are the Royal Canadian Mounted Thugs ready to make a mess in aisle 5 in case some real schlub comes up to Trudeau and ask him anything impolite. And one last thing. What is the point? He's not the prime minister. He's not running again in Montreal in the federal election. Why is he sharing this in the first place?
Oh, because he's still a social media diva. That's his next iteration of himself. I also think he didn't take this photo himself. He's doing one of those, like, I'll reach toward my cameraman. So it looks like my cameraman is taking the photo of me. But no, he probably had a team in there with him because he's still an MP, right? And yeah, this Canadian Tire is completely empty. This is not your Fort Saskatchewan Canadian Tire on a Monday at 11 a.m. Definitely not. But yeah, he's obviously buying stuff for a bachelor pad because he doesn't have a pot to pee in anymore.
And Sheila, aren't most Canadians shopping at Canadian Tire? Oh, I don't know, during the weekend because, oh, I don't know, we're working hard Monday to Friday to pay the bills.
Some of us have jobs. We gotta pay for a government, don't you know? Okay. We should hit a Rebel News ad break, and then we'll come back in and we will discuss election/Liberals/Trump stuff. And then after that, we gotta have to hit the Tesla terror crime wave, because apparently the Tesla terror came to Calgary overnight. So we'll see how that's going.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again, if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
Okay, before we get into the Trump, Trudeau Liberals, Mark Carney Liberals, potential campaign stuff, and the NDP just generally being NDP, one thing I wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about yesterday, and I hope this bodes well for Canada going forward, because I am very sick of seeing billions, if not $1 trillion or so dollars in Canadian oil and gas development being vaporized by eco-radicals who put pressure on the federal government. And during the 10 years of darkness of the Trudeau Liberals, those eco-radicals were also being funded by the Trudeau government. And a lot of them are foreign, funded out of San Francisco by the Tides Foundation, to the point that Tides Foundation tried to obscure their activities in Canada by changing their name to Make Way. So a couple of days ago, in a court in America, Greenpeace was ordered to pay $660 million, over $500 million, to Energy Transfer Partners, and that was a company that was trying to do work in the Dakotas, over the Dakota Access Pipeline project. The pipeline was damaged. The project was delayed. It was an absolute nightmare and chaos. Foreign funded radicals, or domestically funded radicals, since this was in the United States, were coming from all over the country. They had a protest camp there. They had burned excavators. It was like what happened in northern BC, where the axe wielding mob rolled into the worksite. That was like that every single day. And it went on for 2 years. I think until Trump had to bring in the National Guard to put an end to it. Anyways, they sued Greenpeace for defamation and orchestrating criminal behavior by protests at the Dakota Access Pipeline site. They incited people to protest by using a misinformation campaign. And anyway, by the way, the Greenpeace organizers didn't, they say they didn't tell the truth. For example, they didn't talk about the relationship that Energy Transfer had with the Standing Rock Sioux tribal they offered the Standing Rock Sioux financial incentives to stop the protest, which the tribe declined. They believe the tribe refused because they were offered more by Earth Justice, a trial monitoring committee. So it was all astroturfed nonsense. And just to be clear how violent these people were, it was, like I said, it was chaos. It was arson. They kidnapped a filmmaker named Phelim McAleer. And I think Anne, his wife, wasn't there, but I think it was Magda, their producer, and they're one of their filmmaking partners. Yeah. Greenpeace organized protests who kidnapped me because I asked awkward questions, and they've been found liable for hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. He was kidnapped. Like, there are phone calls that have been published of Phelim calling the police saying, they've kidnapped me, come help me. Like, it was wild.
And did they?
The police did eventually come and help them. I'm not sure what happened to the kidnappers, but in most states, they take kidnapping very seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And I think these people just sort of got off with like hey, don't abduct filmmakers anymore.
Unbelievable.
Anyways, I just wanted to talk about that because there's a new sheriff in town named Donald Trump, and things are changing. And I hope this serves as an example for companies in Canada to not give in to these eco-radicals, because usually we sort of like the oil industry kind of apologizes for itself before it stands up. Like, oh, like we are doing emissions, but we're doing everything so much cleaner and blah, blah, blah. No, just say you're working and you're creating jobs and wealth and providing people something that they need. Don't apologize anymore, because being weak is what happened here.
100%.
Okay, I think that's it.
And then to dovetail it really into what's happening on another front in terms of, well, let's call it what it is, terrorism. What is happening at Tesla dealers? What is happening with people who have Tesla cars? Sheila, this is off the charts, disgusting and egregious and outrageous. And it just shows you the divide, I think, between the left and the right. And let me illustrate that. I was walking Sir Gregor yesterday, and I had my little transistor radio on. You can Google that, kids. Anyways, I was listening to the guest host for the Alex Pearson show on AM 640, and it was about the Tesla terrorism. And he was saying all the right things. This is wrong, offside, blah, blah, blah. Then a caller, a progressive, called in, and he started to, in the beginning, say all the right things. You shouldn't have your car vandalized. The dealership shouldn't be firebombed. And I'm waiting because I knew it was coming. But, and here was the but, Mr. Guest Host, consider what the right was doing some 3 years ago because of Dylan Mulvaney, and they organized a boycott of Bud Light. And the host basically said, and what a dummy, oh, yeah, you're right. He said, where's the effect of, yeah, there's extremists on either side of the political sphere. Sheila, I'm sorry, vandalism and arson of property that isn't yours is not the same in no way, shape, or form as deciding you're going to boycott a product, right?
Well, yeah, like let's just talk about the sorry, I'm just looking up a tweet, or X post, I should say. I'm trying to correct myself and not call it Twitter or tweets, because it's definitely not that old, horrible company. But there, of course, what's happening to these Tesla owners, Tesla dealerships, it's political violence. It's not a boycott. You have a right to not spend your money on a Tesla. You don't have a right to damage a Tesla or somebody else's legally bought Tesla. That's political violence. Okay, so, and this has come now to Calgary. Calgary does have a small but active Antifa contingent. And there are Tesla vehicle fires now in Calgary, arson being investigated as arson. And that was published yesterday. So it's not just the crazy places of the country like Hamilton, no offense to the good people who live in Hamilton. We covered the Hamilton Tesla fires. Donald Trump says, and he calls it rightfully what it is, terrorism.
Yeah. Because it is politically motivated. That is the definition of that type of violence.
Yeah, he says, I look forward to watching these sick terrorist thugs get 20 years in jail for sentences for what they are doing to Elon Musk and Tesla. Perhaps they could serve them in the prisons of El Salvador, which have become so recently famous for such lovely conditions. And then there's Andrew Coyne, who's constantly in some form of Trump hysteria. He says, for vandalizing a car.
Yeah, not his car though. Then
Right.
if he had some skin in the game, but it's not just vandalizing a car.
It's not
Sheila,
about the car.
when you set fire to an EV, that's a big deal. These fires are very hard to put out. I know when we did our EV report about Brampton Transit, guess what? Those EV buses, folks, they don't park in the garage, because if one of those goes on fire, the entire fleet and the garage, it goes up in a ball of flames. So for Coyne, who really, I think, is now mentally ill, Sheila. I mean, when you read his tweets, it's beyond Trump derangement syndrome. The left, making the case that this is, I don't know, political activism, I've even heard some lunatics say, oh, where's the right now when we're embracing our First Amendment rights? Really? You think that arson and vandalism is somehow a freedom of speech issue? These people are insane, Sheila. And it's really funny, isn't it? Because you think of the EV as a vehicle category. Going back over a decade, Elon Musk was the toast of the Democrats and the liberals. Oh, the electric car. He's going to get us off those evil fossil fuels. I've told you before in the past, Sheila, I've seen him 3 times around Avenue Road and St. Clair. It's a white Tesla and it has a vanity plate. It's so stupid. RIP oil. I bet you that guy has sold his Tesla, but that's besides the point. Anyways, a darling of the left. And now he's vilified. And why does he need this? What has he done that's wrong? He has provided tens of thousands of jobs to Americans making and servicing Teslas. And for this, he's being attacked because he heads up Doge. Are you kidding me? I hope Donald Trump follows his word on this, that these are 20-year sentences. I heard him in a press conference driving in this morning to Rebel News headquarters. He doubled down, saying not only 20 years, but no chance of a pardon either. I hope that's what these scumbags get.
And they're stupid. And I'll tell you why. They're the stupidest possible environmental terrorists. As Justine Bateman points out, who is, if you're not following her on X, you must. She really has some interesting insights into Hollywood, into art, and those circles, being someone who has sort of floated through the granola world and come towards the intersection of granola and conservatism, which has sort of become a thing since COVID. She says, Tesla is literally the worst car to vandalize. It's equipped with multiple cameras programmed to record disturbances to the car. Every vandal is recorded and most are subsequently identified. And then Elon Musk explains, Tesla Sentry Mode captures video of anyone attempting to harm it. Bad news for criminals. And Tesla tweets out, smile, you're on camera. And then Elon says, Tesla has ramped up security and activated Sentry Mode on all vehicles sitting at the stores. So when they're sitting in showrooms and service centers in the US and Canada and people come in along and burn them, guess what? 9 cameras just caught you. You
Good.
Dummies. Which, good.
Now let's bring them to justice, Sheila. Let's slap them with
Exactly.
20-year prison sentences. And by the way,
Not in Canada. Definitely not in Canada.
oh
You
no, but you know what?
crazy?
Maybe at the next presser, that's a question for Pierre Poilievre, because
Yeah.
it is happening in Canada. Hamilton, Calgary, our beloved colleague
Montreal.
Alexa Lavoie covered something happening in Quebec regarding this. This is atrocious, because I can tell you, people at Tesla dealerships are going to work in fear right now. They don't know if some guy coming in the door is some, progressive radical terrorist that's going to set fire to the place. People that own Teslas, they're going, gee, can I leave it in the parking lot at the shopping mall? Am I going to come back and see my tire slashed or see it being keyed? I can only imagine it won't be long before the insurance companies, Sheila, go, oh, you drive a Tesla? That's kind of like a 19-year-old new male driver getting a Mustang GT. Suddenly the risk is very much enhanced for the insurance company. So this is absolutely horrible for a guy that's doing what? Giving of his time. He's a philanthropist. He is the richest man on the planet, Sheila. He could be on a beach somewhere in the Caribbean or going to a golf course at some exclusive resort and having fun with his time. And instead, what is he doing? He's creating jobs. He's saving astronauts.
Right.
Okay. And he is now the target of this terrorism. And that's what it is called, Andrew Coyne.
Yeah, I imagine the hysteria if Andrew Coyne's car was vandalized with something that said "sell the CBC," which of course would be politically motivated vandalism. Don't do that. Don't do that to Andrew Coyne's car. But could you imagine? Don't. But could you imagine the hysteria? Could you imagine the hysteria that you would not be able to open up your X account because of the hysteria taking place on left-wing X? You just couldn't do it. But Tesla owners, they are now supposed to just deal with this, even though they're innocent people who are the targets of politically motivated violence.
Every time a Tesla dealership is attacked like this, Sheila, it is multiple, and I mean multiple times worse than anything that happened on the infamous January 6th.
Or the honking in Ottawa. It's way worse.
Okay. Of course, Yara Sachs calls honk honk an acronym for Heil Hitler. What a moron. She doesn't even know what an acronym means.
I know.
Jeez.
I know. Okay, let's keep going. We've got election stuff to talk about and Trump stuff to talk about, more Trump stuff to talk about. Okay. Let's go first to Charlie Angus. He is retiring, thankfully. I feel like he's always been an MP and thus always been bad and saying crazy things. NDP MP, he's saying that Canadians should avoid traveling to the U.S. to stand up to President Trump. Canada must stand up for our citizens and for the rule of law. Now we're getting tariff lockdowns, apparently. We've been threatened with climate ones. We had COVID ones. Now this is a tariff lockdown from Charlie Angus, of all people.
Donald Trump thought we were going to be an easy mark, that we'd be a pushover.
It's like Dracula
how
again.
wrong he was. And now Canada standing up to him has made Canada the front line in the defense against the MAGA ideology. I am here today to say to Canadians to avoid travel to the United States if at all possible, and to call our government to stand up for our Canadian citizens who are being denied their rights by arbitrary detention in the United States today. The Canada must stand up for our citizens and for the rule of law. For any kind of incriminating evidence that they're somehow progressive or woke, that's not the actions of a democratic nation. That is the creep of totalitarianism. That is the creep of fascism, and we need to call that out. Donald Trump thought we were going to be an easy mark, that we'd be a pushover.
Sheila, first of all, no, Charlie. I'll be driving to Buffalo for my bourbon. I'll be flying to Florida when I can for the weather and the freedom. That is the absolute opposite of totalitarianism that you're talking about, the free state of Florida. You know, Sheila, if I was a newspaper headline editor, I think the headline I would put on that ludicrous rant, Charlie Angus stepping down, he was predeceased by his party. Because one thing I do believe about these polls that are coming out, it looks like the NDP might be wiped out, as in shut out, not winning a single riding. Can you imagine? And I can't, and whatever the final count is, I can't wait for that presser with Jagmeet Singh trying to somehow explain why his selfishness and his greed in not bringing down this Liberal government all to save his taxpayer-funded pension, how that was justified, especially since not only did you not get elected, not only are you not the official opposition, but maybe you're reduced to 0 or maybe a couple of seats. Can't wait for that one, Sheila.
Yeah, let's just be grateful that Gary Mason did this from inside the confines of Canada, or Gary Mason, that's who I want to talk about, that Charlie Angus, who continues to look like Gary Oldman's version of Dracula. I'm just happy he did this from the confines of Canada, because this is not an original idea of the NDP brain trust, because Gary Mason, CBC contributor, I think he writes for the Globe and Mail. Gary Mason also floated this idea from Palm Springs, Florida. He's on CBC talking about how Canadian snowbirds should boycott the US, while he's quite literally a snowbird in Palm Springs, Florida.
Palm Springs, California, I believe,
or
right?
sorry, Palm Springs, California. Yes. Somebody had initially reported it as Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but it's Palm Springs, California.
Yeah, well, that's a fitting snowbird destination for him, the left coast. It's kind of like Gavin Newsom, the governor, during COVID. We're closing down the restaurants, don't go there. And then he buggers off to a VIP dinner at a winery with several supporters. So I guess that kind of hypocrisy in California, Sheila, they're so tone deaf and immune. They don't
He's literally a snowbird, and he's like, yeah, those snowbirds shouldn't be coming. They should not go to the United States. He's in Palm Springs, like, and they have Sheila, it on the name key, like the gall of these people.
That's for the schlubs like you and I and our audience, not the important people, not the globalists and the elitists.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we
don't go to
VIPs.
Palm Springs. We go to Arizona.
Yeah,
that's where the blue collar people go, is Arizona.
Unbelievable.
Anyway. Could you imagine?
Jeez.
Oh God, not a clue. And was he like ever going to tell? Like, CBC probably put that up, but I can't imagine that Gary Mason would have willingly indulged the audience that he was currently in Palm Springs. They just put the locator on it and probably blindsided him with it. We've got
that's
a couple
good point.
Yeah, I don't think he knew. Because I can't imagine he would be saying those things with the locator of Palm Springs on his screen.
The hypocrisy, the double standard. Quick anecdote. I might have said this before, but I was covering a big student protest in downtown Toronto. I think Efren was the cameraman. And it was all about the kids demanding free tuition. And I came up to a lady, and she was selling a communist newspaper. And I was doing a little interview with her. And in addition to free tuition, well, they wanted free public transit. They wanted free meals, like everything free, Sheila. And I said to her, I went, that's interesting. Is that a paper you're giving out? And she said, yeah. And so I took it, and I said, oh, a communist newspaper. I said, thank you. And I started to walk away. And she said, hey. And I went, yeah. She goes, $2. I go, $2 for this? She says, well, we have costs. We have labor costs. We have production.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Welcome
All
to
caught on
capitalism,
camera.
sister. Welcome to capitalism, sister. Okay, we've got a quick chat to get to.
Okay.
And a quick ad read. I'm going to do the ad read first because the chat is going to take it out of me. So it will. I want to talk about the things that people are afraid to say out loud. For example, who was in control of America's nukes? It wasn't Biden. Meanwhile, we have Russian ships off the coast of Florida and full-blown wars in Ukraine and Israel. The world was at its most unstable point since World War II, at least until the election of President Donald Trump. And with nuclear weapons, the stakes are 10 times higher. How do people like you and I stay safe? Every prepper needs to have RadioGuard ACE, the only FDA-approved drug to treat radioactive fallout. Only the feds had it until now. That's why Rumble partnered with 5G Free, the only company in the world that has a supply of RadioGuard ACE and the ability to prescribe it prophylactically. Get their radiation emergency kit with RadioGuard Ace, potassium iodide, Zofran, and a Geiger counter. There's simply no other tool in your arsenal to protect against a radioactive threat. Go to 5gfree.com, code STUDIO to save 15% and get your radiation kit now. Okay, we've got this chat from Annalisa.
I love it already.
I know. She gives us $13.99 to embarrass me on air. Hello, my favorite, the rebels. Sheila, could you pass a message to my sweet Menzies? Yes, no. Well, you know I'm gonna. Either way, tell him he's a hunky wonky darling. Haha.
You know, Annalise, I promise, I think you're somewhere in northern Alberta too. If ever I'm out there, I insist, thanks to all your wonderful donations, I'll treat you to a coffee somewhere. And secondly, Sheila, can you tell our super producer to get a screenshot of that super chat? The next time Lady Menzoid nags me incessantly, I'm just going to show it to her. I go, hey, there's other options out there. I don't have to take this. So thank you so much, Annalisa.
Let's quickly, I just want to get away from this. We don't have a ton of time left in the show. I've got a hard stop at noon. The Liberals, just a couple of things on their list of furthering their extremism. And again, in case you thought that Mark Carney would temper the extremism on all fronts in the Liberal Party of Canada, boy, you've got another thing coming. We have, where did I put it? The absolute gun-grabbing lunatic from Quebec, from Poilievre. She said that she is going to run as here it is, the most vocal spokesperson, Natalie Provost from Poilievre. So that's the gun-grabbing group that gives all their bad ideas to the Liberals. She's getting into politics with, of course, the Liberal Party. Prepare for more authoritarian policies for firearms. Bolt actions are next if Carney is elected. 100%, I agree with that. She looks exactly like a gun-grabbing feminist, doesn't she? Completely. Completely.
There is that look, you know. And,
they do have the look. Yeah, like they have haircuts and glasses where I know they don't have a great relationship with their fathers.
You know, folks, I got to tell you, Sheila Gunn-Reid and I were in Israel in 2018, and we got this exclusive access to the air cadets graduating, and it's on a military base, and there was so much firepower there. And Sheila made the adroit observation. She's looking around. I said, what are you looking at, Sheila? And Sheila said to me, you know, I'm looking at all these clean-cut young people. There's such a lack of weirdos here.
Zero.
It's so true.
Zero weirdos. And
then
I should tell you, like the IDF, they have relaxed dress and comportment standards because so many young people serve in the military, like all of them, by the way, all of them. It's mandatory military service. So when you go there and you're used to either complete weirdo kids that are out in the world, or like kids who are like tight bun, clean nail polish, no earrings. And then you see this sort of amalgam of a normal young person, but also serving in a military uniform. I was like, there's a surprising lack of weirdos in all of Israel. And I think it has a lot to do with the mandatory military service.
Yes, indeed. The weirdos were noticeable by their absence.
Yeah. There was not a weirdo to be had. Like in that whole day, it was.
Although you got kind of weird on the way back to the hotel, Sheila, because you made the mistake of walking past a restroom and not using it, not knowing we were going to be trapped.
We got stuck in traffic. And I did need you to block the men's room door for me, and I'll forever be grateful. I'll be forever grateful. What a gentleman you were.
Chivalry is not dead. Not yet.
No, not yet. Feminists are trying to murder it, though, but it's hanging on for dear life. It's on life support. We've got a quick, what I want to talk about is the Liberals. Chandra Arya. He was the Liberal Party leadership candidate who has served as a local MP since 2015. He signed his nomination papers multiple times. Then all of a sudden, he's not good enough to run for the leadership. They ban him from running. And now they won't even sign his nomination papers after removing him from the leadership race. And they're not telling us why. Now, is it foreign interference? Maybe you should tell us, right? Like maybe we deserve to know instead of you guys hiding this. Or are they worried about somebody who could muster an ethnic vote in his region? I'm not sure, but he was a sure thing to win his riding, and they've decided to remove him. Maybe what if they drop Mark Carney into his riding on him?
Oh, you know what? That's an excellent theory, Sheila. Clearly, what's happening to this man is a vendetta, but the missing piece of the puzzle is the motivation for the vendetta.
Why?
Yeah, you know, and maybe you've stumbled across the answer. We didn't like how he tried to upset the apple cart during the Liberal leadership race that just concluded earlier this month. So you're going to pay a penalty for that. Oh, and by the way, we do need some riding somewhere to parachute Carney into. Two birds, one stone, I guess, Sheila.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more and more of a conspiracy theorist all the time. But
what's a conspiracy these days?
Exactly, just somebody who's an early adopter of the truth 10 years later. I mean, if you wait long enough, everything that Alex Jones says becomes truth. Remember when he was ranting about a cabal of pedophiles in Hollywood, and then there was one? It's crazy. Anyways, the MP in question says he doesn't know why the Liberals aren't providing any reasoning, and we're just all left to speculate. But I mean, he was good enough to run for them for the last 3 elections?
Yep.
But not now.
But, you know, and Sheila, I'm going to say it again to all those people out there that go, this is not right. This is undemocratic. This is mean-spirited. Yes, yes, and yes. And guess what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The sad fact is that a political party is like a private club. They can make their own rules. They can change their own rules. They can pick and choose who they want. And Tina Turner once said, what's love got to do with it? I would say with political parties, what's democracy got to do with it? Which is nothing. And it is a shame because I don't know much about Mr. Area, but I don't think he's deserving of this kind of treatment.
Speaking of not deserving of this kind of treatment, this just from YEGWAVE, what YEG is the airport call code for Edmonton. The bronze statue outside of, I don't know where it is standing now. It used to be at former Rexall Place, of Wayne Gretzky has been defaced with feces. Now, I don't know if this is a politically motivated attack. I don't know if we want to show that. It's kind of gross, actually. Let's not show it. You can find it. Go to YEGWAVE on whatever platform you're on. You can find it there. I don't want to show it. It's the bronze statue of the champion from the City of Champions. It's been defaced. And like I said, I don't know if it's politically motivated because he is, I don't even know if he's even saying friendly is the right word, but collegial with Trump. Oh gosh, we don't need to show that. It's pretty gross.
Wait a minute. Is that an indoor statue?
It's at Rogers Place now. It used to be outside of Rexall Place. So that's the old arena. It might be indoor. I don't remember seeing it.
It looked like it's in an enclosure, Sheila. So I would imagine there must be surveillance footage of whoever did that. That's so gross.
Here's the thing. This is why I'm not sure if it's politically motivated. That arena area, what they call Ice District, is an absolute nightmare of crackheads. It is the perfect example of Amarjeet Sohi's Edmonton. Amarjeet Sohi was the former natural resources minister under Justin Trudeau. He failed downward into the mayorship of Edmonton after he lost his seat to Tim Uppal in Mill Woods. Conservative Tim Uppal. And now he wants to run for the Liberals again. And I hope that every time he shows his face in public, people remind him about how terrible downtown Edmonton is, thanks to his progressive leadership. So could be politically motivated, could be just some of Amarjeet Sohi's crackheads down there. Who even knows?
And you know, what a segue, Sheila, and what a coincidence, because yesterday I was out with Efren and Lincoln covering a synagogue in Vaughan that was once again being targeted by the pro-Hamas crowd. They never got their way this time, thank goodness. But Lincoln and I stumbled across this poster put up by the city of Vaughan announcing that they wanted resident feedback for a proposed new off-leash dog park at Pierre Elliott Trudeau Park. And it is my fervent wish that, and there was a statue of Pierre Elliott Trudeau there, folks. Sheila, you don't think any of the canines might, leave their calling cards near the statue, do you? I mean, let's all hope and pray that doesn't happen.
Speaking of canines, mine just ran in and bumped the camera. If anybody saw that, we did not have an earthquake out here in the middle of Nowheresville, Alberta. My dog stuffs her nose in the sliding doors, barn doors in my studio, and then comes in and then just bashes the camera.
What's your dog's
welcome,
name?
Morgan. Morgie.
Interesting.
Morgie. Yeah, little mini schnauzer pug cross. Hideous looking dog. So ugly, she's cute. But sturdy, a sturdy little dog, can fall off a quad and just roll away and get up and run away. So that's exactly what I wanted. Not too big to take with me places, but sturdy enough to just be a good farm dog. So she's perfect. Snaggly teeth too. Okay, we've got a chat here from Peace Sign Guy, and I think we need to wrap up the show.
Okay.
Gives us $5, says save Tommy Robinson, and that is in reference to Ezra's ongoing coverage of the attempt to get Tommy at least out of solitary confinement. You can see more and support Ezra's journalism, because he took the most horrendous travel schedule to get over there, report, and get back. You can see all of that at TommyReports.com.
Yeah, and Ezra did a great job. Just him
great.
and a selfie stick. And, hope abounded that Tommy had a chance in court. Of course, England being England, those hopes were dashed. And but on the bright side, Ezra got out of Heathrow just by the nick of time before that fire. It's still disabled as we speak, Sheila. Europe's busiest airport is down because the fire took out the power and the backup power. So
Pearson levels of chaos there.
Yes, I'm glad the big boss man got out just in the nick of time. So and please check out his reports, folks. We haven't forgotten about Tommy Robinson. In fact, we're doing everything we can to bring justice there.
Yeah, and to make sure nobody ever forgets that he's just not languishing there, hidden away by whatever they call the warden of that prison there, so that nobody can see him or visit him or truly know his conditions behind bars. Because visits have been canceled, of course, for political reasons. They look at your social media and they say, you know what, a little bit too right-wingy, a little bit too free speechy, you can't come in. So we're doing our best there, and that's at TommyReports.com.
Yeah, it's amazing. Free speech, anti-censorship, that's now to third rail in the UK. Unbelievable.
In the country of the Magna Carta,
Thank
of all
you.
places.
I know. Unbelievable. Well, Sheila, it was a delight on National Fragrance Day.
I am a delight. I am.
What fragrance are you wearing today, by the way?
Soap.
There you go. Soap, folks. Remember the old Irish Spring catchphrase, made for a man, but I like it too? And usually it was a chick saying that, but now, well.
Could be anybody. Could be anybody.
Anyway, Sheila, thank you so much. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. A special thank you to all those who gave us a super chat. As Sheila says, we don't receive.
Annalisa.
And a super special thanks to Annalisa. And I promise you, one day I'll get out there and I'll buy you a coffee for all your generosity and your fantastic sentiments. Sheila and I.
Trolling of me.
Yes, and that adds it, because, Folks, they say you only annoy the ones you love. And I love Sheila Gunn Reid. So to see her so annoyed gives me joy. So, Annalisa, keep up the chats. And Sheila and I will be back here on Monday, probably a super red hot news day, if indeed the election is called on Sunday, which is what is expected. In the meantime, I hope you all have a nice weekend. And as always, stay safe and stay sane.
I've heard you say this in all of the talk about Canada becoming the 51st state. Are you concerned that if they became the 51st state, they would be a very, very blue state? Very, very big and very, very blue.
No, there might be, but it would, you know, you have that artificial line that goes, that straight artificial, that looked like it was drawn by a ruler. Somebody with I don't mean a ruler like a king, I mean like a ruler, this way. And it's just an artificial line that was drawn in the sand or in the ice. And you know, I tell Peter, just you add that to this country, what a beautiful landmass, the most beautiful landmass anywhere in the world. And it was just cut off for whatever reason. It would be great. Now, is it liberal? Maybe, but you know, a conservative until I got involved, because I don't care who wins up there. I frankly probably would do better with the liberal than the conservative, if you want to know the truth. But just a little while ago, before I got involved and totally changed the election, which I don't care about, probably it's to our advantage actually. But the conservative was leading against, I call him Governor Trudeau. The conservative was leading by 35 points. So, you know, so I don't know about that. I think Canada.